So welcome to day three of Bury St Edmunds. We're tired out, aren't we?
Yes.
Now, I don't know why, because I've worked it out, in the last 2 days of doing this tour of Bury St Edmunds, we've walked 6 miles. But when we did Ipswich, we walked 10 miles, so we should have been more tired at Ipswich than this. But personally, I'm more tired doing Bury St Edmunds, and we are travelling, because we live here. Anyway, starting off here, do you want to take over on that and I'll tell the story? This is Abbey House, and this is where the Danvers family lived. Now, I don't personally like the Danvers because they had a sugar plantation in in Canada, and they had 200 Negro slaves. I don't like anyone who had slaves. So that's how the Danvers family made loads of money. But it didn't do them much good. It just proves that money doesn't buy you happiness, because there was a guy called Henry Danvers. He shot himself whilst he was at sea back in 1759, and then 7 years later, right behind this house in a greenhouse, another guy died. Another Danvers guy shot himself behind there. So 2 suicides, and they were rich. So serves them right, really, for using Negroes. I don't like that. And then in 1805 there was a lady called Mary Davers. Did I say Danvers?
Yeah.
I meant Davers. I'm sorry. It's Davers, the Davers family. Mary Davers, she died in 1805, and in her will she insisted that she was buried 12 feet down. Can you imagine digging a hole? 'Cause in them days they did it all by hand. A 12-foot grave. And it was so that grave robbers, because in them days they used to steal bodies and sell them to medical people so that they could cut them up and do experiments like Frankenstein. And she insisted on being buried 12 foot down. Just a little fact. So that's the Davers family. We don't like them. Let's move on. So we haven't moved far. That's the Davers house there, the white one behind. And we're right in the centre of Abbey Hill. Is this Abbey Hill?
Angel Hill.
Angel Hill, sorry. Opposite the Abbey Gate. And right next to the illuminated sign, which I'm not going to go into because Mazzy told us about that last time. The oldest illuminated sign in the whole of Britain. Wow.
Or the first. Something like
the first and oldest. Well, the first is going to be the oldest. Yeah, all I wanted to say is right in this centre, you can see it's all car parks now, cars parked everywhere. This is where we park, £3.50 for 2 hours, and when you're doing 2 stints, that's £7 a day. It's costing us a fortune to park here. We're over there. But this used to be a big market, right from medieval times, early medieval times. There used to be a market here, and it was one of the biggest in the world at the time. And it got stopped, it got closed down in 1871 for being a nuisance. Yeah, it were a nuisance, so what were going on in them days, I have no idea. But yeah, shut down for being a nuisance. Right, we're going into the Abbey Gardens now, we've got some stories in there. I'm not really understanding this, to be honest with you, but if you look at this picture here, you've got monks singing at either side of the Abbey. And I believe it was this part here. And the monks would be singing at each side, and they'd be screened off so that the pilgrims who were coming here every day wouldn't disturb them whilst they were doing their singing thing. I don't know. Why were they singing? Why did monks sing? Can you explain that?
Don't know.
Can you have a guess?
No.
I wonder what they sung. I wonder if they had a chart, you know, like a top 10 of monk songs all around the world.
It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah.
So just behind me here are 2 plaques. Come and have a look. You can read all about it there, I'll show it in a picture. But here you've got the names of all the barons. Now all these barons met here in 20th of November 1214. And they met here to basically all decide that they're going to force King John, who wasn't the best of kings at the time, they were going to force him to sign a charter. They came up with this charter, and it had a load of rules, and they wanted King John to sign it. Eventually he did about 7 months later, and it became known as the Magna Carta. Now, I know very little about the Magna Carta, but I've heard of it. Had you heard of the Magna Carta?
I've heard of it.
Everyone's heard of it, but no one knows what it is. Anyway, things on this charter which they got King John to sign, it was saying things like the king had to promise that all churches would be protected, the barons would be protected from being put in prison, and the amount of money the churches had to give to the king was to be a set amount and an affordable amount. It was basically ripping them all off, all the churches, and they all got together right here in Bury St Edmunds and came up with this charter, which was written by the Archbishop of Canterbury, and put it forward to King John that he had to sign it. And he did. He went forward to sign the Magna Carta, which then laid the foundations to the legal system you actually have in England to this very day. So, you know, you think of the law, you think of courts, you think of if you're a burglar, you're bad, if you commit murder, you're bad, if you steal, you're bad, if you sleep with your next door neighbour's wife, you're bad. It all stems from the Magna Carta. It all stems from right here. So in 1903, New Year's Day, the archaeologists came in. They had a big party, like Glastonbury. They do it all the time here in Bury. They love it, do archaeologists. They came here and they decided to dig up some abbots, some very old abbots. I'll tell you who the abbots are. Here's the first. You've got 5 of them there. In the first, you've got Edward of Walpole. He died in 1256. In the second, you've got Henry of Rushbourne. He died in 1248. Richard of the Isle, 1234. Samson, 1211. And Ording, 1157. Now, we're not sure, from what I'm reading here, I've got pictures and I'll be showing you all this, but I think they were actually here. From what it's saying, it's trying to make out that they were there, they dug them up, they took the coffins up, had a really good look at the bones and stuff. They loved that bit. That was like the highlight of the Glastonbury trip for the archaeologists. And then they reburied them here with new tops on them. So they were there, they're now there. Well done, archaeologists. Must be very proud to dig people up. Important people at that.
If I could take you up in boom, 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 tell me I'm the only one that you love. Life could be a dream, sweetheart. Life could be a dream. Plans would come true. Spend my whole life loving you. Life could be a dream, sweetheart. Yeah.
Now we've got loads of stories of fires. Bury St Edmunds is very well known for having a lot of fires over the years. Now, mainly because they were all like, you know, medieval houses, you know, they all wooden beams and things. They were easy to set on fire, and they did. The first, I'm not doing it in date order, and I'm doing it in the order we get to them, okay? So I can't be bothered going all the way down there to tell you about the 1600s fire, just to come all the way back up here to tell you about a 1912 fire. There was a fire here in 1912. Right here, number 9, Angel Hill. And there's still a gap there today. They've never replaced it with another house. Now, the fire spread into number 10, which is this one here. But on my notes, it says that to the left of number 10, there was actually some bay windows here, which got damaged by the fire. So they had to knock down part of number 10, put a line up there. They've built a small number 9 in here, and they've left the thingy-mabob there. But it was quite a big fire here, but luckily it didn't spread to the other side of the road. Or so you'd think, but a few years later, there was a fire at the other side of the road. So I changed my mind. The fire in 1929 didn't start across the road. I'm getting really confused here. There's a lot of notes, there's a lot of things to talk about, and it's doing me head in. I'll be completely honest with you. Bury St Edmunds is doing my bloody head in. Right, there was a fire in 1929. Not that fire there in 1912. The one in 1929 was here. It's all along here set on fire, and it was the worst fire in Bury St Edmunds' modern history. Set all that on fire and a few garages at either side. Really bad and very, very warm. Now that fire was started by car batteries, apparently. Car batteries. Apparently they used to use car batteries to charge house radios in the olden days. Didn't know that, and there was some kind of fault with one of the batteries in the chargy bit, and it started the fire. Now the fire brigade came, the brewery fire brigade came, and they tackled the fire, but unfortunately there was one death, and it was the death of a young child. So that's a sad story. But that's fire number 1, fire number 2. We've got more. So that was the fire of 1912. Then that was the fire of 1929, and then you had a fire here just last year, just last October. Right there was a cycle shop which went up in flames. It was an insurance job, wasn't it?
No.
No?
Arson.
Sorry, couple of lads set fire to his shop. Very naughty. So yeah, that's 3 fires within the space of 50 metres of each other over 110 years. Wow. So now we're at Abbotts Bridge. This is the River Lark. Again, I think I told you in one of the previous videos about Bury St Edmunds, it's more of a stream. It's rubbish. Honestly, I used to go fishing on canals that were a lot thicker than that at certain points. This is a really skinny, rubbish, settled, waveless. There's no white water rafting or anything going on down here. It's just a really, really rubbish river. Anyway, forget that, the River Lark. Behind, you've got a bridge from the 1100s. A 12th century bridge. Now, if you go to the other side, we've been there, we've taken a picture, we'll show you it. If you go to the other side, there's what they call buttresses. Now, I don't know what buttresses are, but I have seen them. I still couldn't describe it to you without the picture. But there's an area where you can actually put some planks along. You can imagine they'd put planks along, and they did, because I've read it in my notes. Put planks along, and then the public from Bury St Edmunds could walk along the buttresses, yeah? So they could get across the river. On this side, which was the Abbott side, the Abbey side, the monks, they could cross here because they've got a little path going across. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Is that showing up, yeah?
Yeah.
They could walk across there. On top of that, they had like iron railing type things, like gates, which they could drop down in between each one to stop bad people coming up the river. So if Monk, I don't know, what would we call it, Monk Michael came running up saying there's some people coming up that river who look like pirates and nasty people, he'd come running up here and he'd say to Abbott Michael Monk, there's bad people coming, drop them iron gates. So they dropped them there. Now, if there was any more trouble and they couldn't, and they decided to get up here on the boats, stop at the side, get off the boats and then walk around, as they started doing that, the bald monks from here would go up to see the proper abbot, who was like the king of the abbey. And I think it was a building just there, because he stayed in a building very nearby, and they could just knock on his door and say, Abbot Monk, very special person, will you please come because there's danger? And he'd come and he'd beat them up. I reckon he was really hard. I don't know. I really don't know the story about the bridge, apart from it's from 1100s, something to do with monks and abbots. Who cares? Who cares? So this is the north wall of the Abbey of Bury St Edmunds, and I'm just putting this on because I'm hoping someone might be able to tell us what these are. Have a look at that. It's like, I don't know, like iron plates in some strange little thing, but it's not a one-off. They're all over the place. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there, so there's like a line of them going over there, but there's also some higher up. There's one up there, and I want to know what these are, so if anyone can tell us what they are, I would be delighted to hear. So the last story I've got to tell you today is about the biggest fire Bury St Edmunds has ever seen. One of the biggest fires outside of London, probably. You've heard of the Great Fire of London. Well, this was in 1608, the Great Fire of Bury St Edmunds. There was some servant girl, and in them days, you didn't have mobile phones with a torch on back. What you had is like a candle, and she took a candle to bed, and she did something wrong. She was stupid. She probably, I don't know, she was probably lying in bed and she fell asleep and she probably had one of them spasms. You know how you have sometimes when you're dreaming, you have like a, ugh. She probably had one of them, and she knocked the candle off the bedside table and it set fire to the house. That's a fact. I'm not saying the spasms are fact, but the rest of it is. So she set fire to the house by accident because she was really sleepy and she did something wrong. And it started about here, definitely on this road. Now, it spread because in them days, in 1608, every single house was made out of wood and just burnt very easily. Started here, it spread all the way up to Abbey Hill Market Centre, which is 300 metres from here. And it might have even started 200 metres down there. I'm not sure where she lived. I don't know her name, don't know her address. Went all the way up there, 1608, and it destroyed 200 houses and 500 outhouses. That's toilets. Destroyed 500 toilets and 200 houses, which gets me because I do know in them days every house had an outside loo, yeah? But why didn't it destroy 200 outhouses and 200 houses? That's trying to say there's like 2.5 toilets per house. Now, if you're in Bury St Edmunds in 2018, I can guarantee you won't find a toilet. There's one in the Abbey Gardens. And another thing I want to point out, in the toilet in the Abbey Gardens, there's a little office. There's actually a woman who works in there. She gets paid to sit in an office outside the toilets. Now, what her day job is, I don't know. I'm sure she does actually clean the toilets hourly, every few hours, not sure. But what does she do for the rest of the time? But yeah, there were a big fire and it were really bad.